Hey, welcome everybody to the Talent and Strategy Show here on the Success is a Choice Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jamy Bechler, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Ruston Pierce. Ruston, how you doing today?
Good morning.
Good morning to you. I appreciate you joining us. I hope you had a very Merry Christmas, and we're gonna jump into the new year here very soon. But first, I want to remind everybody, this episode is made possible by our friends over at Affinity Recruiting and Consulting. Check them out at www.affinitytoday.com to find out how they can advance your mission and increase your bottom line. So Affinity Recruiting and Consulting. Today, we have a special episode for you. It'll just be Ruston and I waxing poetic with random lists. We have opinions and we are going to give them to you. And if you are watching this live, go ahead and throw it in the comments. You might disagree with us. You might agree with us. You might have your own opinion. You know what? Put them in the comments, whether you're watching it on LinkedIn, Facebook, Rumble, you're watching it on YouTube, wherever you are. Even if you're watching it on replay, go ahead, put it in the comments. Let us know where we're wrong, who we forgot, what we forgot, all that kind of stuff. Ruston, are you ready?
I'm ready. Your list you sent me to fill out were really difficult.
Oh my word. Well, we won't tell anybody what those lists were. So if people think that list was a terrible list, we won't say if it was Ruston or Jamy. Chances are though, it was probably me. I'm probably the culprit at that. So we're going to jump right into this. We've ranked them. So we have a number of different lists. We've kind of ranked these 1 through 5, and we're going to start off with favorite movie. Everybody has an opinion on favorite movie. And Ruston, I'm going to go ahead and let you start off with this. This is not favorite Christmas movie. So you can forget that. We're not going to, we all know it's going to be Die Hard, but we're not going to go favorite Christmas movie. Otherwise it's easy. It's Die Hard. Go ahead. Favorite movies of all time. Ruston, hit us with your first one.
So I can make this easy because there's been 5 Bring It Ons. So like that could be just 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now it's funny. I was doing these lists that you sent and I started realizing how incredibly culturally incompetent I am as I was filling these things out. So my number 5 is probably not on anyone's list, but when I'm on an airplane, I can, for whatever reason, Delta always has this movie. And if there's nothing else that I can watch, I can always sit and watch Draft Day. It fascinates me. Kevin Costner, I think, is just awesome in it. And I can watch Draft Day 150 times.
Of the Cleveland Browns, up here in my neck of the woods.
Which is why it's fictional, because the Browns have a good draft. So, totally made up.
They could stand to watch that maybe to get some tips and advice on drafting. But my number 5 is Dumb and Dumber. I'm going to go with just a dumb movie to start with. I'm setting the bar really low for the rest of my answers, the rest of the time that we're together. But Dumb and Dumber, no matter how many times I watch that, I always laugh at that one. Number 4, Ruston.
Return of the Jedi. Out of all the 9 Star Wars movies, that's the one that I can always sit and binge watch multiple times.
Very good. Very good. I'm going to come close to that here in a little bit. But my number 4 movie is A Bronx Tale. Most people do not know that movie. Most people have not seen that. It was with Robert De Niro, but It's set back in the Bronx, and it's got a lot of great quotes, a lot of great life lessons. It's about mobsters, but one of the greatest quotes from that movie is the greatest tragedy in life is wasted talent. So A Bronx Tale comes in number 4 for me. Number 3.
Number 3 is a weird one for me, but it has sentimental value for me and my daughter. My daughter's a huge theater kid. She loves musicals. She and I have seen Dear Evan Hansen in person on Broadway or on an off-Broadway production. We're actually going again in May. And we love the movie and we watch it together all the time. Love the soundtrack. So number 3 for me is Dear Evan Hansen.
Never seen it. And if it's got music in it, I probably will not be seeing it. My favorite 2 musicals are Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the Blues Brothers. So you can tell how not cultural.
Both quality.
I am. Both quality. Most people would not put them in as musicals. My number 3 movie, I'm actually going to cheat. I'm apologize for this, but James Bond movies, just all of them. Yes, all
Yep.
of them. It doesn't matter. The worst one to me is still number 3 on my list. So James Bond movies in general, I grew up watching them with my dad. They're all my favorites. I can watch any of them. They're all very unrealistic, but I am entertained.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I think we're down to number 2, your runner up.
Yep. My runner up is Braveheart. It was a close second. I'm a huge William Wallace fan. Love every second of that movie. Can watch it on repeat for hours on end.
Very cool. My number 2 is a sports movie, Hoosiers. I'm going to go with Hoosiers. The story is not really about real life. In real life, the coach was really young and the team had actually been to the championship game the year before. So they Hollywooded up, but it was still a great rags to riches or a small town team winning. I love Hoosiers. I'll watch it all the time. I've even gotten to speak at a basketball clinic at the Hoosier gym. So that's a real cool, it means more to me than just the movie. And I'm one of these guys. I don't know about you, Rustin, but I'm one of these guys that can sit and watch the director's cut where they're, or the commentary where they're talking back and forth about the movie. I love hearing the backstory. I'm just a nerd about movies I like.
Yep.
So your number one.
When you
go
spoke
ahead.
in that gym, did you get up on somebody's shoulders and measure the rim, make sure it was 10 feet from the floor?
No, but I did do the underhanded shot that Ollie did, and they are much harder to do. I know back in the day, a lot of people used to do underhanded shots, but it's a lot harder to do a granny shot than you would think so. And I was not very successful at that.
Yep.
So your number one all-time greatest movie for Rustin Pierce is?
My number one has been my number one for 25 years. It's Tombstone. It will always be Tombstone. Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday is one of the greatest actor performances of all time.
Very good movie. I'm almost disappointed that didn't make my top 5 because now that you say it, that is a great movie. My number one, you mentioned Return of the Jedi. I'm going to go with the original, the absolute original Star Wars. I fell in love with Princess Leia. She was my first crush. Well, I will talk about her a little bit later, actually, but I fell in love with her. Loved that movie. I actually went to it in the theater. And when I left the theater, I was a little boy. I thought Darth Vader was going to be waiting for all of us and was going to get us when I left that. So Star Wars, number one movie of all time. Absolutely.
Princess Leia was my first crush is not a sentence I was expecting to hear today.
Well, I'm actually going to talk about her a little bit later. So my first crush. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, did you have any honorable mentions or
Hoosiers would have made mine. I had a hard time leaving Hoosiers out.
Yeah, it's a tough one. You know, we could have easily done best sports movies of all time. And there's, you know, we could have done best sports movies just with Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Will Ferrell, it seems like he's done every sports movie possible but
Remember the Titans. Remember the Titans is another one I struggled to leave off.
Yeah, it's tough when you're going with 5. You know, like I mentioned, Will Ferrell, I'm a huge Will Ferrell fan. And so lots of his movies are right up there. So, you know, we just came through Christmas. So Elf, you know, we could have done greatest Christmas movies and that could have got a lot of discussion. But hey, everybody in the comments, put your favorite movie. Tell us where we're wrong. Tell us where we're right. Agree with me. You know, tell me who your first crush was. You know, go ahead and do that. That's fine. Let's move on to the next one. Our next category, greatest college basketball player ever. Russ and I are big sports fans. A lot of you that watch this are big sports fans. We have a lot of coaches out there as well. So we want to know college basketball players. So this could be, I'm guessing Sam Bowie is not on either one of our lists, but
He did not make it.
Sam Bowie, Ralph Sampson, guys that were amazing in college, but maybe didn't have we're not looking at who had the greatest pro career or who the greatest basketball player of all time, just who's the greatest in college. I went from this, Rustin, of people that I've seen. So that eliminated a lot of people because I'm only in my 40s. You're in your 40s. So I didn't go back to the day. So some people could say, hey, you left off this person. That's fine. I didn't see him in person or I didn't see him on TV. So I didn't put those. I don't know about you, but
I went back all the way. I've got those people.
Well, you've probably grinded the film a little bit. You've watched the old black and whites, the old 9 millimeters or whatever. Or you jumped into DeLorean or the Wayback Machine and you went back there and checked it. But
YouTube's a beautiful thing.
awesome. So I look forward to hearing on the players that you have. I will go off. You started last time. I'll go off. I will go ahead and start with number 5. And I'm not sure he's the greatest college basketball player. I think he may be the most dominant. And we talked about it's just college, but I think he's one of the most dominant athletes of all time, any sport, any level. And that's Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq, when he was at LSU, he was a man child. He was pretty much unstoppable when they could get the ball to him. But Shaq, it's amazing how much he even grew and got better when he got to the pros. But Shaquille O'Neal, LSU.
So my number 5 is going to sound very familiar. I have Shaquille O'Neal. For the exact same reason. When he got to LSU, it was unbelievable how dominant he was. And at that time, LSU was a doormat in the SEC. And all of a sudden, Dale Brown became a genius. And Shaq was just dominating the conference. And it was amazing to watch.
Well, those LSU teams, all of a sudden, they got really good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had another big guy, another 7-footer, Stanley Roberts, and then they had a guy named Chris Jackson, who's one of the better college basketball players of all time. He was amazing scorer, and he became Mahmoud Abdul Rauf in the NBA. But Chris Jackson was amazing. But yeah, you're right.
But it all started with Shaq. Those guys wouldn't have shown up if he wasn't there.
Absolutely. Well, great minds think alike. Number 4, I was a huge UNLV Running Rebels fan. And I got to go with LJ, the LJ when he was with the Knicks. But LJ, Larry Johnson, when he was with UNLV, they listed him at 6'7", 6'8". He was really about 6'4", but he was an inside-outside player. I loved watching Larry Johnson.
I had Christian Laettner at number 4. His time at Duke's iconic. The shot's iconic. They still show it every year in the NCAA tournament. And he was just a fantastic player. A lot of people forget he was the only college player on the Dream Team. That dude could play.
Yeah, he could. And I would agree with you because he's my number 3. He's my next pick. So we are in alignment pretty close on a lot of these, but I hated with a passion Christian Laettner. I can't stand him, but he was an amazing player. My 2 favorite teams were UNLV and Michigan. And in back-to-back Final Fours, he knocked both of those teams out. So I absolutely hated Christian Laettner, but the dude could absolutely play. He was a competitor, and he fed off of that hate. So in a warped sense of in a warped way, I was fueling his ability to beat Michigan and UNLV by my hatred. So number 3 for you.
Number 3 for me is Bill Russell.
He's not bad. He had a pretty good
when you
year.
look at the overall stats, especially being at the University of San Francisco, nobody was paying attention to, nobody really has sense. He was doing things that people just didn't do in that time period.
Yep. University of San Francisco, great player there. My number 2 is Chris Webber. Chris Webber, Fab Five. He also is the greatest high school player I've ever seen in person. He was a man among boys, even against the other all-state players in Michigan. At the time, we were around the same age. Even against the great players in Michigan, he was still dominating them, and it was a man-child. He had a great career at Michigan, only 2 years. And a lot of people like to bring up the timeout that he allegedly called in the championship game. But since they ended up cheating and they had to forfeit that game, the timeout never actually happened. So number 2 for you, Ruston.
I'm going to go with Lou Alcindor, possibly Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, depending on which one you knew him as. John Wooden won multiple national championships. Most of them were because of Lou Alcindor and Bill Walton. He put UCLA on the map.
Well, my number 1, I have a 1A and a 1B, and I'll give you my 1B afterwards, after you say your 1. My 1A, the guy that I saw play he's not probably the greatest college player from a talent standpoint, but from a leadership and a winning standpoint. And I look at a lot of things from a leadership standpoint. But a guy named Mateen Cleaves, he didn't win as many championships as other guys. He only won one championship at Michigan State, but he was the ultimate leader. He was the ultimate captain. So Mateen Cleaves from Michigan State would lead my list.
Wow. Did not see that coming.
Didn't see it coming. And I know right now, if you're watching this, you're probably, like Mateen Cleaves, what are you talking about? But if you've actually seen him or watched Michigan State, and me coming at it admittedly from a lens of leadership. So I'm going to throw in a little bit of leadership today, but Mateen Cleaves was the ultimate leader. He was a great leader, almost like a Derek Jeter type, almost like a Tim Tebow type, but for basketball. But he was still a great player. He still played a little bit in the pros as well. But Mateen Cleaves, Michigan State.
So my number one is Pistol Pete Maravich. In my opinion, the greatest college player ever. Averaged over 40 a game. A lot of times playing with a very inferior talent pool around him, and still found ways to make LSU good. The man could do no wrong.
And he did that all without the 3-point line.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have the 3-point line back then, but that was my 1B. I figured he would be number one on your list. I said I was only going with people I'd seen, but I think he is at the top. I've seen enough YouTube of him and know his stats. Yeah. Pistol Pete, definitely college basketball's greatest player, probably. So, you watching this, go ahead and throw in your comments, tell me how dumb I am for my list or whatever. But, you can agree with Ruston all you want because Ruston probably had the better ones. He brought in Lou Alcindor, he brought in Bill Russell and Pistol Pete. That team's pretty good there. So, that would have been fun. Maybe one day we'll do all the sports, or we'll do some different sports with this too, because I know you're a huge SEC football fan or just a huge college football fan, and that could get into some really good debates and arguments, just from a quarterback standpoint, or the greatest Heisman guys or the greatest football players. So that'd be great. Let's go on to one that is sure to ruffle some feathers. I'm guessing there may be some people. And I know I'm going to say something that Ruston might not like. I don't know that for sure, but pet peeves. We all have pet peeves, and maybe it's fresh on your mind because you just spent time with the in-laws, or you just spent time with the family, at Christmas time, and so these pet peeves are really on your mind. But we're going to go through our top 5 pet peeves that we have. Things that just get us shaking our heads, get us, oh my word, why would you do that? Why? I hate this. Those kind of things. So, Rustin, I'm going to go ahead and let you start. Number 5, your biggest 5th worst pet peeve.
I have to make myself remain calm and not respond and not react in any way, especially when my children are in the car. But people who are really bad drivers and don't seem to care at all that they're a bad driver drive me insane.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like you're a good driver and you never do anything to drive people insane?
I think I'm an adequate driver, and I think I know when I am speeding. I know when I made a mistake, and I'll acknowledge that I made a mistake and let the other person know that I made a mistake. The ones that drive me crazy are the ones that just think they're the only person on the road, do whatever they want, and don't seem to care at all about anyone else.
Well, my number 5 is very similar to that. And some of those same people might be the people that I'm upset at different times. And this could be a bigger, broader topic, but
I think we've just jumped into Festivus. Like, we're just going to do the airing of grievances.
We are going to air grievances. Yes. I think we would agree Seinfeld would probably have made our top 5. Maybe. Yeah. I do know the Office would have made both of our top 5. Number 1. Yeah, it would have made definitely our top 5. We would be in agreement on The Office. We both love that. But, I wasn't sure, so I'm going to say it's either the school drop-off lane, pickup lane, / people driving who do whatever they want with no regard for anyone else. So those two things can be combined. So I didn't articulate it, but when I drop my son off, when I drop Jalen off or pick up Jalen, it's amazing how people they go insane when they're in that lane. When they're waiting, they don't wait well, they drive 35 miles an hour in a parking lot. You know, they turn left when you're only supposed to turn right. They do all these things because they want to do it. And
Mhm.
drivers who do whatever they want, like the rules don't apply to them, that irritates me. And that could go into anything. You know, a politician who makes a rule, or a coach who makes a rule, but then they don't follow it themselves. I don't like it when people just do whatever they want to, and they don't care about anybody else. But mainly
Yeah.
that mainly I recognize that every single day when I drop Jalen off or pick Jalen up. So there's a yeah, it builds my patience. I work on my patience when I drop off or pick up Jalen every day. So I guess that would be the carpool lane, or the school pickup drop off lane.
Yep.
Number 4.
So I have an English degree, and I used to teach English. Um, I don't care as much about written because everybody's written ability has pretty much digressed into abysmal levels. Texting has destroyed written grammar. But when people use really, really bad grammar or just invent words when they're talking, it eats all over me. And I will never, like, I'll never call anybody out on it because I'm not that level of a jerk. But internally, like, it's just, I'm dying. I'm literally dying inside when people just start making up words and changing grammar phrases around, and oh, it eats all over me.
So are you a big there, the way people write there, the word there? Are you big
So
into that? You hate that when you see that, or do you just
so
understand people don't know that?
again, written, like, especially in a text, it could have been auto corrected. You never know, what they messed up. So, as someone who has graded a lot of papers, though, I can tell you that the overall writing ability of the United States of America has digressed significantly.
It's emojis. It's
Yes.
emoji. We even put emojis on our little banner here
Yeah.
on the Talent and Strategy Show today. But very good. Very number uh number 3 for me is similar to grammar. It's something people say that irritates me every time. It's when they say, to make a long story short. If you've said that, it's too late. My
Yeah.
wife, Tabitha, always says too late. She'll whisper to me, too late. I once had a boss, a president at a college I was at. He was speaking, and he told a story. 3 times he said, to make a long story short, during the same story, not the same speech, the same story in that speech. If you say it once, it's too much. You say it's 2, wow, check yourself. You say it's 3, we got to get that shepherd's crook and pull you off the stage. I don't care who you are. To make a long story short, we don't need to say that. You say it, that should be the end. The end,
There's
period.
there's one person that rule does not apply to, and I think it's appropriate to go ahead and have a tribute to him real fast. If Mike Leach starts a sentence with, "To make a long story short," you let that man talk, because you're about to hear one of the greatest stories of all time. And my favorite example of that is the Lincoln Riley story, where Lincoln Riley was his offensive coordinator. And he said they're sitting in the office one night breaking down film, and all of a sudden Mike Leach's phone rings. Leach answers the phone, has about a 20-minute conversation, and then goes, "Hello? Are you there? Are you there?" Calls the guy back, continues the conversation for another 15 to 20 minutes. So at this point, he's been on the phone for 35 to 40 minutes during the meeting. Like, all the other coaches are just sitting around waiting on him to get off this call. And he finally hangs up, and Lincoln Riley goes, "What was that?" And he goes, "I don't know, wrong number."
Yeah, Mike Leach is a treasure, national treasure. I think we're on. Are we on number 3? I think.
Yes.
All right.
For me, that is people who are just constantly negative. The person that if they won $1 million, they gripe about having to pay taxes on it. They just can't ever seem to find anything positive in literally the entire world. Those people eat me up.
As we're doing a topic called pet peeves and what
Yes,
we don't like and what we're
the airing of
negative about.
grievances.
Yes, the airing of grievances. One of those is the airing of grievances. Uh, Number 3 for me is really, really trivial and really nickel and dime this, but when it comes to Twitter, and I'm on Twitter a lot. I don't want to see what Ruston Pierce likes. And this could be on Facebook, this could be anywhere. I don't want anything showing up on my timeline of what you like. If you want to share it, if you want to retweet it, if you want to share it, repost it, I'm all for that. Because if I follow you and I trust your judgment, I want to see what you deemed was good enough to share. But there's a lot of people. We were sitting around the other day. I was sitting around the other day at a dinner table and we were having chips and salsa and they brought out guac. I hate guac. I think the devil made that. The devil loves avocados and guac. I hate that. You might like it. That's fine. That's for you. Now, if you start sharing it with me or you start sharing a food with me that you really like, all right, I might take interest because you're sharing it with me. But if you just like it, I don't care what you just like. I don't want that to show up on my timeline. So that is so trivial. That's so piddly. I wish Twitter would change that algorithm so I never have to see something when you like it. And that would also solve a lot of problems with athletes and college athletes and people. Oh, this person liked this tweet. You shouldn't know if they liked it or not. I only want to know when you retweet something. There, very trivial. I know, but
So I'll go ahead and apologize. Let Tabitha know I'm very sorry. I ordered a crate of avocados at Costco and had them sent to you for Christmas. I would think they're going to be delivered any day now.
she loves avocado. She loves guac. So I understand, but there's like 3 or 4 foods in the whole world that I will not eat. I don't want anything to do with, and guac slash avocados is one of them. I know how un-American. I know there's people right now unsubscribing. They're unliking. They're on whatever. They're canceling me. I get it, but sorry. I'm just keeping it real, dog.
Number 2. For me, I'll give the best example I can possibly give. I was in a gas station bathroom one time and walked in, and there is a dude in a stall having the most vocal, vulgar conversation I've ever heard in my entire life. Now, out on top of that, he's on speaker. So I'm hearing the other person's responses. And this dude was in the stall because he was not having a good day. And so I'm listening to this just range of noises coming out of this stall mixed into him cussing out this dude on the phone who's cussing him out back. And all that's in my mind is, why are we being forced to listen to this conversation? And, the other night we were in the mall Christmas shopping. This lady was in line behind us, had her phone on speaker. There's like 40 people in line. She's having this incredibly loud conversation on her speakerphone. And we're all like, okay, number one, we don't know you. Number two, we don't need to know what's going on in this conversation. Number three, we don't know the person on the other end of that call either. And we're not so sure she would appreciate that you're actually having this conversation with 40 other people. It drives me nuts. Like, why is it so hard to have a normal phone conversation and take the speaker off?
As you've been talking, I've come up with a couple more that I remember that was a pet peeve of mine. And phones on a plane, when you touch down, right? It could be a lot of things for traveling. The person that has to get up and get in the aisle right away, and then they're in the back of the plane, but the person that calls up their person, hey, I'm here. Yeah. Hey, I can't wait to go to so-and-so. Text them. Or you know what? Wait until you get into the concourse. Like, it's not that big of a deal that it annoys me. It didn't make my list though. So, all right. Number two for me is when your water glass gets down to the end and there's no more water and they haven't filled it up. I don't understand how a server cannot keep your water glass filled, especially when they notice that you've been drinking a lot. Now, if I have water and I have a martini or a soda or a pop next to me and I'm only drinking that pop, you don't have to worry about the water. But I'm a water guy at a restaurant because I'm cheap. And so water's cheap. So I will drink a lot of water, especially at a Mexican place, especially there. And I hate it when my water glass gets down to the end. There. That's number 2 most annoying thing, pet peeve for Jamy Bechler.
Servers beware.
But I tip very well. If you keep that glass full, I'm gonna tip you really well.
Although that's, arbitrary because you just said you're really cheap. So, um,
I save the money so that I can tip you later.
so number one for me is actually a Seinfeld reference. This is the second Seinfeld reference in this show. Close talkers can't handle it. Like I don't like being close to people in general. My wife says I'm void of emotion. So when you get close to me and you talk to me right here, I'm not feeling okay. Like, not only do I not want to have that conversation, I want to take you and physically move you as far away as humanly possible.
So pretty much we could just talk about Seinfeld all the time, just
Hmm.
different episodes of Seinfeld and the craziness that is Seinfeld in everyday activities. All right, my number one. My number one is where if you haven't canceled me already, if you haven't unsubscribed already, you will probably now. And this is where, Rustin, you're probably not going to enjoy this one. I have a real problem, which is why it's number one on my pet peeves. When I see dogs in buildings, when you bring a dog into Lowe's or Home Depot, or you bring a dog into the mall, or you try to bring a dog on a plane, or even you're at a big festival and you got a stinking pit bull and you're bringing them around all these people. I have a problem with dogs in buildings, public buildings, and people that are pro dogs. And I know there's half of our audience probably loves dogs, pro dogs. Okay. I grew up with dogs. I grew up raising dogs, Dalmatians. But here's the deal. We always care about dog owners' feelings, their feelings. They've got to have this dog with them. We worry about their feelings, but what about the feelings of people like me who have been bitten by dogs? When we see a dog, we go into like post-traumatic stress disorder. We're sent right back to our therapist. Okay. But people with dogs, we got to care about their feelings. Well, what about my feelings having been bitten by dogs? Not just pit bulls, but little dogs. There, I've said it. The comments are probably going to blow up. The chat's going to blow up. My texts are going to blow up. People are going to hate on me. I understand, but I get very irritated when I see dogs at Home Depot or at any other store. And it doesn't matter if it's a pit bull or not. It could be a little dog. It could be a nice little cute fluffy dog. Don't bring your dog in there. And I'm not talking about the blind dogs, not dogs that are blind, but I'm not talking about the service
I think
dog.
that phrase is a service dog.
Yeah, I'm not talking about service dogs. Like if you legit have like a license or whatever you have to go through to get a service dog. Okay. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, and you know who you are. Some of you are listening to this. You know who you are. Yep. Ruston Pierce. You know who you are. You can't leave home without your dog. The dog, you go on vacation, but the vacation lasts like half a day because you can't leave that dog with somebody else. Your whole world revolves around your dogs. I understand that's a big deal, but some of us have been bitten by
she,
dogs,
she
multiple
can go.
dogs.
She can go with us. Actually, she went to Ace Hardware this morning. Um,
Exactly. You're what's wrong with the world. You send people
so
like me to therapy.
so all I just heard was, feel free to tweet all the Sarah McLaughlin videos you would like to at Coach Bechler. Huge fan of the ASPCA. Loves Sarah McLaughlin on repeat.
Dogs are cute. I'll pet them sometimes if they're like sleeping in a corner. I, but yep. So there you go. That's my number one. That's probably going to be the most
I
controversial.
don't think we're going to be able to sponsor this show anymore. Actually, the
Affinity
viewership
Today.
just dropped by 3/4.
AffinityToday.com. Yep. This is the last show that they will be a part of, I'm guessing. But
Ending 2022 on a bang.
oh my word. All right. Favorite. Let's go. Favorite leadership quote. Favorite leadership quote.
Number 5 for me is Tom Landry. Leadership is getting someone to do what they don't want to do to achieve what they want to achieve.
Very good. Very good. Mine is C.S. Lewis. He had a quote about humility. He said, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but rather thinking of yourself less. It's not, degrading yourself or having self-esteem issues, thinking that you're no good, but it's looking to help out others. It's looking to put emphasis and focus on others more than yourself.
Awesome. I have no idea who said this, but number 4 is a leader demonstrates what's possible.
Very good. Very good. I think Gandhi said this, but be the change you want to see in the world. So a lot of us complain. We have pet peeves. We air our grievances, but we don't do anything about it. Be the change you want to see in the world. If you want people to be kinder, then you be kind yourself. If you don't want dogs in Home Depot, then don't take your dog in Home Depot. No, that wouldn't apply. But in other words, be the change you want to see in the world. Gandhi.
So my number 3 has been credited to about 100 people. So I think you can attach any name onto this one and it'll probably be right. Um, Leadership is not about being the best. Leadership is about making everyone else the best they can be.
Very good. Very good. Stephen Covey, Dr. Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of his habits is seek first to understand, then to be understood. So that would be the quote, understand others first, but we always want people to see our perspective, but we don't see other people's perspectives. So dogs, people only care about their dog and their feelings about their dog, but they don't ever
You
think
gotta you
about,
gotta get away from this.
they don't, that's what my therapist has said, but they don't think about those of us that have been bitten by dogs.
Number 2 for me is Dale Carnegie. Develop success from failures. Discouragement and failure are 2 of the surest stepping stones to success.
Very good. John Maxwell has a million quotes that I like, but I will go with the one that kind of shapes me and how I do leadership. But leadership isn't about positions, titles, or flowcharts. It's about one life influencing another.
Awesome. So my number 1, I use literally all the time. I've used it with teams for years. I'm coaching a team right now, and it's our team mantra. Again, it's been credited to all kinds of people, so I have no idea who actually said this first. But there are only 2 things in life you can control: your attitude and your effort.
Very good. My number 1 is going to be the first quote I ever memorized. It's obstacles are what you see when you take your eyes off the goal. Obstacles are what you see when you take your eyes off the goals. Too many of us get distracted by things left, right. We're looking over here at things that don't matter. So yeah, favorite leadership quotes. Those are good. Go ahead and put in the chat if you're still for all the people that hate dogs or don't own a dog that are still with us because everyone else has left. So if that's you right now, go ahead, put it in the comment section, what your favorite quote is. And we'd love to see that as well. We will go with favorite fictional leader, otherwise known as the Michael Scott category. Not really, but the favorite fictional leader. I will go ahead and I will go first. And just like James Bond with favorite movie, I'm going to cheat just a little bit, only because he was in multiple shows, multiple films, but I'm going to go Jack Ryan, because he's in a lot of things. I just love his character, mainly the Harrison Ford character, but there's been like 5 or 6 people to play the Jack Ryan character.
I'm going to go with Captain Kirk.
Trekkie. You're a Star Trek fan?
No, but when you think about all the life lessons and leadership lessons that people could have taken away from Captain Kirk, there was actually quite a bit of it embedded in Star Trek.
Very good. My number 4, he had as much influence as anybody in the history of the fictional world, and that would be Forrest Gump.
Okay. My number 4, sometimes leaders are polarizing, and sometimes you have to beat half your crew into submission before they'll realize that you're the best leader for the group. So I'm going to go with Tony Stark, Iron Man.
The Elon Musk of fiction.
Hey, you've got to be a heck of a leader in order to lead the Avengers. There's a few egos in there.
There's some alphas. My number 3, I'm not sure that he was always a great leader necessarily. And most people won't even know who he is. And most people wouldn't even say he's the top leader from the show, but I'm going to go with a show, West Wing.
Yeah.
And I'm not going with President Bartlett. I'm going to go with his chief of staff, the guy that made everything happen, and that's
Mhm.
Leo McGarity. Leo McGarity was respected on both sides of the aisle, and he got things done, and he was always the wise sage. He always made sure, hey, we're looking at things the right way. I loved that character growing up.
I'm gonna go with a wise sage as well. My number 3 is Yoda.
Oh, great one. I wish I am so jealous. That might be the pick I'm most jealous about that I did not
Yeah.
think of. Great one. Um, but I do have a Star Wars person represented who we will get to in just a moment. Number 2, the second greatest fictional leader of all time, Mr. Miyagi.
That's a good one.
Wax
That
on,
that
wax off.
that never even popped into my head. That's a good one. Number 2 for me, I have no idea what his name is, and I'm too lazy to look it up. But the general that Tom Hanks plays in Saving Private Ryan.
Captain Miller.
Oh, Captain. Okay,
Cap
there you go.
Captain Miller. Very good. Very good one. All right, my number 1 fictional leader of all time. This is a no-brainer. This is you don't have to agree with me, but you would agree with me only if you're right or if saw Star Wars as a kid. Princess Leia is the
Oh
number
my
1
lord.
fictional leader of all time. Not only was she a princess, not only did she lead the rebellion, but she was soft, she was gentle, but she also was tough at the same time. And she was my first crush ever. I once had I dreamed about her in a kid platonic sort of way, but I dreamed about her one day, and I had heard like this rumor that if you tell somebody about the dream before you eat in the morning, it would come true. Yeah, I know. It's pretty stupid. So I went this long time without eating that day. And I was telling everybody I could think of, expecting her to show up at my doorstep. I drew out this picture. Now realize I'm like 5 years old, 6 years old. I drew this picture for her. I was ready. She didn't show up, but I'm sure it was because she had bigger things to do, like save the Republic, save the galaxy. But Princess Leia, my favorite fictional leader of all time.
So you hate puppies, and Princess Leia is the greatest leader of all time. Yep, this has officially gone off the rails.
Your number 1 fictional leader of all time.
Well, I have to start it by giving the greatest leadership quote from the greatest fictional leader of all time. Would I rather be feared or loved?
Oh
Easy, both.
oh
I
my God.
want people to be afraid of how much they love me. The list should be named the
I,
Michael Scott list.
I literally did not know you were going to say that when I said this is the de facto Michael Scott list.
It is.
Wow.
That's what it should be named. The
Wow.
Michael Scott 5K fun run for rabies awareness list for favorite fictional leader.
Michael Scott, favorite fictional leader of all time. Excellent. Not Dwight K. Schrute, assistant to the regional manager.
No.
Excellent. Wow. All right. Well, we got one more left. One more. We're going to end up with a sports one because we know a lot of people are sports fans. So we got one list left. And that is going to be most underrated athlete of all time. The most underrated athlete of all time. Go ahead, Ruston. Hit us with your number 5.
So I'm a former pitcher. Pitchers are not athletes. We know that. We're okay with it. It's fine. We prefer not to be. The athletes had to run more at practice. So my number 5 is Greg Maddux, the most unathletic, winningest pitcher of all time.
Yeah, he threw those wiffle balls up there.
And not hard.
No, when he brought the heat, it was like what, 80 mile an hour, 85 mile an hour.
Mm-hmm.
My number 5 most underrated athlete of all time. And I literally went with athlete similar to you for this one. And it's Charles Barkley. And the reason I say that is because most people see him as a fat guy now on TV, making jokes, can't golf, but they don't realize how great of an athlete he was. He was fast, he was quick, he was agile, and he could jump. He had a great vertical jump, and he was one of the all-time great players that got overshadowed by Michael Jordan, obviously. But
Yeah.
Charles Barkley, I think, is very underrated, both as a player and as an athlete.
Yeah, that's a good one. My number 4 is similar. I went with the modern Charles Barkley. I'll take Draymond Green.
Ah,
A guy that when you watch him play, it's like, how is this dude in the NBA? And then at the end of the game, you look at his stat line, you're like, how did he get 16 rebounds and 12 assists? It looks like he's doing nothing. And all of a sudden, his stat line's packed with all kinds of value.
yeah. My number 4 most underrated athlete will definitely not be someone you think is an underrated athlete, but that's Barry Sanders. And the reason I say that is because of the way he played and because of the team he played on, and most people didn't ever really see him play a lot, and he retired early. They don't understand how absolute amazing he was and how most people, he's the one person you would say, I would actually pay money to watch him play. And some of his 5-yard losses were as exciting as a normal person's 20-yard runs.
Number 3 for me is Kevin McHale. Still watch video of that guy and can't figure out how in the world he got in the NBA. And somehow he made all-star teams every year. And it's like, how on earth is that dude even in the league?
Frankenstein. He looked like Frankenstein running sometimes in the way he played, but great athlete. Number 3, Dennis Rodman. Kind of like Barry Sanders in a way, in terms of we don't truly appreciate how great he was and that he did something better than anyone else ever. And not just rebound, but he got the ball for his team. And that's underrated skill that coaches appreciate. But you can't score unless you have the ball. And he was able to get the ball better than anyone else in the history of basketball. And we look at, all right, well, yeah, he was a great rebounder and he was kind of weird, but we don't appreciate that he was a winner everywhere he went because he did the things that you have to do to win. Michael Jordan can't score. Those guys can't score if you don't have the ball.
Number 2 for me is John Daly. So it's funny, you heard most underrated athlete and you focused on the underrated part. I focused on the athlete part. So it's funny how that went. John Daly makes no sense. Like he defies all medicine. That dude should have had 18 heart attacks by now. I mean, the man's a chain smoker. He's an alcoholic, and somehow he goes out half the time drunk and competes at a high level on the PGA Tour against the best of the best in the world. And half the time he doesn't even know where he is. It's just it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, you're right. And I've actually seen him play. I saw him play a couple of years ago on a Champions Tour event where he's riding a golf cart and he's chain smoking. I don't know how many Diet Cokes, or allegedly Diet Cokes, that he drank that day. But yeah, and he still crushes the ball. He's still, yeah, he's very underrated. I would grant you that as well. Number 2 is someone you already said, back with college athletes, college basketball players, but Bill Russell. To me, he never gets in the discussion of greatest of all time, but I would say that it's hard to say anyone's a greater champion than Bill Russell. He played 13 years in the NBA. He won the world championship 11 times with the Boston Celtics. I mean, the stinking NBA trophy is named after him.
Yeah.
Or the MVP trophy is named after him. Only Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has won more NBA MVP awards during the season than only Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the all-time leading scorer, who we actually could say is an underrated athlete too, or underrated competitor, because he's the all-time leading scorer and he rarely gets brought up as well. But Bill Russell, great champion.
I have a feeling our number 1s are the same.
I can guarantee that they're not, but I'm probably going to be very jealous that I didn't think about your number 1. Cause I guarantee I would put all the money that I don't have, that you don't have this, that you do not have the same number 1 as I have.
Okay. So my number 1 is the greatest quarterback of all time, who still to this day, they show his 40 at the combine and it's
Tim
the most
Tebow.
awful. It's the most awful looking thing ever. Tom Brady, most underrated athlete of all time. There is no way that dude should have been as good as he is for as long as he's been as good as he is, because he is like the soccer mom picking up his kids in the car line. Complete lack of athleticism. It is amazing.
If I had focused on the athlete part, he probably would have been number one. Yeah, Tom Brady. That's an amazing pick for you. I am jealous. That's a great one. Um, but I focused on the underrated part as
Yeah.
opposed to the athlete part. My number one, drum roll, please. My number one is Zeke, Isaiah Thomas, Detroit Pistons bad boy. Played 13 seasons in the NBA. He was an all-star in 12 of them. The only one he wasn't was his last year. Only 3 people have retired with 19 points and 9 assists as average, and that would be Magic Johnson and Oscar Robertson. He is an all-time great player. In his prime or in their primes, he beat Magic Johnson teams. He beat Larry Bird teams. He beat Michael Jordan teams, and he did not have Hall of Famers around him.
Yeah.
I mean, he had Joe Dumars, but nobody thinks that Joe Dumars is an all-time great. He's an Hall of Famer, but he's not James Worthy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's not Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish. So Isaiah Thomas is very underrated to me because Michael Jordan blackballed him. And I love Michael Jordan. My son has a Michael Jordan poster in his bedroom. I love Michael Jordan. But the one thing I hated that Michael Jordan did was he blackballed Isaiah Thomas. And Isaiah Thomas, because of that, has never gotten the respect and the due that he deserves. He's an all-time great player.
Yep. That's a great pick. Are you saying Vinnie Johnson wasn't a quality teammate? Like the man was literally called the microwave.
Microwave. Microwave could get heated. Oh, I love the bad boys. I love Detroit, everything about him. But if you say, all right, who's a top 50 player, who's an all-time great, nobody is going to automatically think of any of the other Pistons. Joe Dumars is in the Hall of Fame, but he's not an all-time great, like a guy that comes to mind immediately.
Yeah.
And but the Pistons are great. This is going beyond what our list was, but those Pistons teams were great teams. And then even the Detroit team that won it in the 2000s with Rip Hamilton and Rasheed Wallace, those were great teams, but no standout, all-time great type players. And so I love that being a Michigan guy. I love those Detroit teams, but Isaiah Thomas was an all-time great for me. But a side note on Isaiah, I was working Michigan's camps years ago when I was a young guy and working their basketball camps, and they would have amazing pickup games afterwards each day. Well, I saw Isaiah Thomas right at the end of his career. He was still with the Pistons, like in his last year. He had to sit down. His team lost, and someone else had to come on the floor. His team had to sit and wait out like 3 or 4 games before it was their turn. That was one of the saddest days in my life, watching Isaiah Thomas not be able to will his team in a pickup game to a victory over these young college guys. It was a tough pill to swallow.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, there you have it, everybody. There are some random lists, and let us know what list we could do for next time. Let us know where we were wrong, what you would have changed, where what you would say for any of these lists. Go ahead and reach out to us in the comment section, in the chat section. But this is the last show we have of 2022. We'll be back next week with our first show of the 2023 year. Ruston, final parting thoughts as we leave this show, as we leave 2022 behind us.
Again, all Sarah McLachlan videos to @Coach Bechler. That's @Coach Bechler for all Sarah McLachlan videos.
Wow. Hey, I'm just keeping it real, dog. I'm just keeping it real. Yeah, absolutely. So everybody, thanks so much for tuning in today, whether you were watching this live or you're listening to this later on the Success is a Choice Podcast Network, or you're watching this just on replay. We definitely appreciate all of you. We appreciate this year and or the second part of the year watching this show, supporting this show. Please leave a nice little review, a rating, subscribe, like it, whatever you need to do just to show a little love. That goes a long way to helping other people discover this as well. So we will be back here next week as usual. So thanks so much for joining us. And until next time, remember that success is a choice. What choice will you make today?